Pro wrestling has always been built on characters, but for these performers, the most radical thing they did inside the industry wasn't play one. It was to show up as themselves.
Boys do not dress like girls. They do not act like girls. And if they do, there's consequences.
Transgender and non-binary wrestlers have competed at every level of the sport, winning titles and enduring real hostility inside a business where the outcomes are scripted, but the identities of the people delivering them are not. Their stories aren't sidebars to wrestling history. They're where the sport's next chapter is being written. Gabby Tuft. By 2021, it seemed like new stories of authenticity were surfacing every few months. In February, former WWE star Gabby Tuft, who wrestled as Tyler Rex between 2007 and 2014, took to social media and announced she is transgender. She spoke candidly about struggling with depression when she couldn't live authentically, and said she was finally ready to be unashamed, unabashedly me. Her wife's support gave her the confidence to share her truth.
Boys do not dress like girls. They do not act like girls. And if they do, there's consequences.
For fans who remembered her as a towering villain in the ring, this revelation was both surprising and heartwarming. She reminded everyone that wrestlers are people first, and that life after the ring can involve self-discovery. Mariah Moreno. However, more than a decade ago, very few people in pro wrestling were talking openly about being transgender. But that didn't stop Mariah Moreno. She had been living as a woman since she was 15 and kept wrestling even when many promoters refused to book an openly trans performer. In interviews, she has talked about doors being slammed in her face, but she kept working because she loved the craft. Her willingness to be herself in an industry that wasn't ready for her made her a pioneer.
Mariah using the speed again, using the momentum, going off the rope.
When fans watched her in small venues, they saw more than drop kicks and slams. They saw someone fighting to be seen. Mariah's openness laid the groundwork for others. When young wrestlers looked for people like them, they could point to her as proof that it was possible. She quietly mentored others behind the scenes, sharing advice about life on the road and how to handle harassment. The fact that she faced rejection and still spent 15 years in the business shows real resilience. In 2022, she quietly retired, citing mental health and the toll of being a symbol. Her departure underscored that carrying a movement on your shoulders is exhausting. Even trailblazers need support and time to heal. Her era may feel distant now, but back then, she was almost alone. Being visible, even when it cost her bookings, proved that authenticity matters. Without her taking that risk in the early 2010s, later stars might not have had a path to follow. The road she carved through hostile locker rooms and skeptical crowds became a highway for the next generation. To appreciate her impact, imagine walking into a locker room where no one looks like you and insisting on being treated with respect. Beyond the headlines and the bookings, Mariah's day-to-day life involved countless moments most fans never see. She had to correct pronouns in crowded gyms, negotiate fair pay with promoters who doubted her drawing power, and build trust in locker rooms where people whispered. She has talked about being trans not just as an identity, but as an ongoing effort to be respected in a male-dominated space. When she tells her story, she makes it clear that being open since age 15 wasn't convenience, it was survival. Her courage allowed young fans, especially those questioning their own identities, to find comfort knowing someone like them existed in pro wrestling. Candy Lee. Representation isn't just an American phenomenon. It reaches across oceans. In New Zealand, a young wrestler named Candy Lee grew up in Samoa and moved to Auckland to chase her dream. She started training with Impact Pro Wrestling New Zealand and quickly turned heads for her charisma and ring presence. Within a year of her debut, she captured the IPW Women's Championship at the Nightmare Before Christmas event in December 2017, beating Brittany. That win made her the first trans woman to capture a women's title in a major indie promotion. The crowd in attendance didn't just cheer for a new champion, they witnessed history. Candy's story is also about speed. Many wrestlers grind for years before earning a title shot. She rose from trainee to champion in under a year, showing how talent and determination can fast-track success. Her Samoan heritage gave her a built-in community, but she didn't rely on that alone. She used her platform to raise awareness for trans people, reminding fans that wrestling can be both entertaining and educational. Rather than hide her identity, she leaned into it, doing interviews that highlighted her experiences growing up trans and the importance of seeing someone like her in the ring. Smaller wrestling scenes often feel like family. In those environments, word spreads quickly, and the impact of one person's success reverberates. Candy's victory sent a message to promoters and wrestlers across Oceania. Trans wrestlers aren't a novelty, they're competitors. That message mattered as young performers looked for proof that they could succeed without compromising who they are. Watching Candy celebrate with the championship belt, many fans believed for the first time that they could follow in her footsteps. Representation in smaller markets can inspire just as much as any main event on a big show. Her rapid ascent also highlighted how training and mentorship shape careers. She spent hours at the Impact Pro Wrestling Academy, honing basics like chain wrestling, bumps, and ring psychology. Coaches described her as a quick study, willing to practice until exhaustion. Those early mornings and late nights built a foundation that prepared her for the spotlight. Her Samoan upbringing taught her the value of community and respect, qualities she carried into every locker room. When she spoke about trans rights, she did so with warmth that disarmed skeptics. Her success forced local media to learn her pronouns and to cover her story beyond the typical champion profile. That cultural shift may not make headlines, but it ripples outward. Veni. While the wrestling world was evolving in the West and in Oceania, something equally groundbreaking was happening in Japan. Veni, formerly known as Asuka, stepped into the ring and shattered traditional categories. In August 2018, she faced Takumi Iroha at the Anniversario Wave event and won the Regina de Wave Championship. That victory made her the first trans person to hold the promotion's top title. The win might have been scripted, but its significance was very real. Here was a trans woman standing tall with a championship in a country where pro wrestling, or Joshi, is steeped in tradition. Veni's appeal goes beyond wins and losses. She blends high-flying athleticism with martial arts and uses her persona to challenge gender norms. Japanese media often describe her as a genderless wrestler because she flows between styles and identities. For fans accustomed to clear divisions between men's and women's wrestling, her presence raises new possibilities. She held the Regina de Wave title until December that year, proving her reign wasn't a fluke. Along the way, she inspired viewers in Japan and abroad to reconsider what a champion could look like. It's worth slowing down to appreciate how this story played out in Japan, a society that often values subtlety. Fans embraced Veni as both a performer and a trans woman, showing that representation resonates across cultures. Her success prompted conversations about pronouns and language in Japanese commentary. Announcers who had long referred to wrestlers with gendered terms had to adapt. The change may have seemed small, but it opened the door to broader acceptance. Even if the match outcome was predetermined, the impact on audience attitudes was very real. Veni's style also pushed boundaries in the ring. She mixed high-flying moves, like springboard drop kicks, with hard-hitting strikes borrowed from martial arts. Those moves, paired with her androgynous aesthetic, drew in fans who might have otherwise skipped women's wrestling. Her fashion choices, sparkling outfits and bold makeup, became part of her storytelling. In interviews, she has explained that every element of her presentation is meant to communicate freedom from labels. That intent resonates with younger fans in Japan who see her as a symbol of self-expression. It also challenges older viewers to reconsider stereotypes. The fact that mainstream media covered her matches and mentioned her gender identity respectfully suggests a cultural shift taking place in the squared circle. Dark chic. Not all transformational moments happen under bright television lights. In Oakland's gritty indie scene, Dark Chic, founder of Hoodslam, turned her personal journey into a rallying cry. She started hormone therapy at the end of 2018 and came out to her locker room in February 2019. A month later, she stepped into the ring on International Women's Day and publicly announced she is a trans woman.
This is for the kids of Mansoor! Chic!
Hoodslam's audience, known for embracing weird and subversive performances, erupted in cheers. This wasn't a gimmick. It was a real person sharing her truth in the middle of a show. Dark Sheik's decision to intertwine her transition with her in-ring career blurred the line between performance and reality. Hood Slam events already blend wrestling with performance art. By coming out on stage, she turned a typical wrestling promo into something meaningful. She didn't wait for a perfect moment. She created it. The timing mattered. She had only been on hormone therapy for a few months and wanted her friends and fans to know her authentic self before rumors could spread. In the months that followed, she kept wrestling while running the promotion, proving that trans women can be leaders both in the ring and behind the scenes. Hood Slam's community supported her, and their response set a precedent for other indie promotions. Locker rooms are often filled with bravado and macho posturing. Seeing a respected promoter and wrestler come out with confidence challenged stereotypes. Her story shows how local scenes can become incubators for broader cultural change. By combining performance art with honest confession, she showed that authenticity can amplify a show's impact rather than distract from it. Think about the courage it takes to reveal something so personal in front of an audience and then go right back to taking bumps and hitting suplexes. That blend of vulnerability and toughness is quintessential pro wrestling. To understand why Dark Sheik's announcement resonated, you have to appreciate Hood Slam's vibe. The promotion mixes heavy metal music, video game references, and comedic parody with hard-hitting action. Fans are encouraged to let loose, chant profanities, and embrace the chaos. In that setting, a heartfelt confession becomes shared catharsis rather than a solemn announcement. Fans who might not have discussed gender identity otherwise were suddenly cheering for the woman who had been at the helm all along. She later said she hoped her honesty would encourage others to live authentically, whether they were wrestlers or spectators. Her actions weren't part of a storyline, but the ripple effect felt like the most meaningful plot twist of the night. Was Nyla Rose. When All Elite Wrestling launched in 2019, it promised to do things differently. One of its earliest signings was Nyla Rose, making her the first out trans woman hired by a major US promotion. That alone was a big deal, but Nyla didn't stop at being a footnote. On February 12, 2020, she faced Riho on Dynamite at the HEB Center in Texas and avenged a previous loss by winning the AEW Women's World Championship. In a moment watched by fans around the world, she held the belt high, becoming the company's second women's champion and proving she belonged at the top of the card. Nyla's combination of power moves and comedic timing quickly made her a favorite. She has feuded with many top stars and never shies away from using humor to clap back at critics. Beyond the ring, she understands the weight of her role. As the first trans woman in such a visible spot, she's been a lightning rod for both praise and backlash, yet she keeps showing up, continuing to wrestle and speak about inclusion. Her title reign and ongoing presence on television changed mainstream perceptions of what a champion can look like. Visibility, however, attracts obstacles. In April 2024, the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission cited AEW for allowing Nyla to wrestle at an event, arguing she shouldn't have been permitted to compete. There was no safety issue or rule violation. The issue was about recognition. Fans and fellow wrestlers jumped to her defense, pointing out she'd already proved herself more than capable. The incident served as a reminder that progress isn't linear. Even after a headline-grabbing championship win, some regulators cling to outdated ideas. Take a moment to consider how mainstream attention amplifies both support and scrutiny. The title match is scripted, but her hiring and ongoing battles with bureaucracy are as real as a stiff chop. There's another layer to Nyla's story: humor. She's known for quipping back at trolls and cracking jokes about her experiences. When fans throw out transphobic remarks, she often responds with a meme or a one-liner that undercuts the negativity. This light touch doesn't diminish the seriousness of her role. Instead, it humanizes her and diffuses tension. It shows that being a trailblazer doesn't mean being dour all the time. Nyla's ability to make audiences laugh and then powerbomb an opponent through a table makes her one of the most well-rounded stars in AEW. That combination of wit and strength might be the secret sauce keeping her in the spotlight. Edith Surreal. Around the same time as Gabby Tuft, an independent wrestler known as Still Life with Apricots and Pears, was undergoing her own transformation. She adopted the name Edith Surreal to match the woman she truly is. Edith's persona has always embraced art and surrealism, and her matches feature creative offense and elaborate costumes. As she transitioned, she decided the ring could be a place to display her identity rather than hide it. Wrestling gave her confidence to come out, and her character's evolution mirrored her real-life journey. Changing her ring name signaled she wasn't just playing a part, she was wrestling as herself.
Officially going to change my name, playing as Edith Surreal.
Fans who followed her early work saw the parallels between her character's metamorphosis and her own life. Later that summer, Jamie Senegal made history at the National Wrestling Alliance's All-Women's Empower Premium Live event. She entered the Women's Invitational Cup Gauntlet, a multi-competitor match where the winner earns a future spot. Although the match was ultimately won by Chelsea Green, Jamie's presence marked the first time an out-trans woman competed on such a stage for the NWA. Viewers saw her trading moves with seasoned veterans and newcomers. She didn't win the gauntlet, but she opened a door. Her participation showed that trans women could compete at high levels without broadcasters turning their identity into a spectacle. Taken together, these stories made 2021 feel like a turning point, each built on the momentum of the others, creating a snowball effect that spread awareness across promotions. Fans took to social media to celebrate, and many promotions realized that authenticity resonated with audiences. It's worth pausing to connect these dots. This wasn't a marketing campaign. It was individuals bravely sharing their lives. Only Jamie's match result was kayfabe. Everything else about these announcements was as real as a chop across the chest. The result was a cultural shift, proving fans are ready to cheer performers for who they are, not just for a gimmick. Gabby, Edith, and Jamie's stories also showed how different promotions react to trans visibility. WWE had released Gabby years earlier, so her announcement came from outside the machine, allowing her to control her narrative. Edith's change happened in the indie scene, where fans are often more supportive of avant-garde personas. Jamie's appearance took place under the NWA banner, steeped in tradition. Each environment posed different risks and offered different support systems. Fans learned there isn't a single template for coming out. Some do it online, some do it on stage, and some never make a formal statement at all. What matters is that the industry as a whole is becoming more flexible about accommodating these journeys. Giselle Shaw. The momentum continued into 2022, and Pride celebrations provided the perfect backdrop for more breakthroughs. In June, Impact Wrestling's Giselle Shaw walked onto the stage at Toronto Pride and told the world she is a transgender woman. She shared that she had been transitioning for 12 years and that she'd known she was trans since she was 6. Impact's leadership immediately reassured everyone she was hired for her talent and would continue in the same role. There was no storyline twist. This was simply her life.
Shotzi has to adjust certainly her style, a lot of her maneuverability.
Fans and colleagues applauded her honesty, and the moment underscored how Pride events can serve as safe spaces for big announcements. Just weeks later, across the Atlantic, Wrestle Queerdom hosted a landmark moment of its own. British wrestler Aidan von Engeland used his entrance to announce he is a trans man. Previously, he had used non-binary pronouns, but he told the crowd he now uses he, him. He acknowledged that he was part of a small but growing number of trans masculine wrestlers and proudly claimed his place. The audience cheered as he stepped into the ring with newfound confidence.
Yep, and now look at this. Oh, they just hit Charlie!
This declaration expanded the narrative beyond trans women and non-binary performers, reminding everyone that trans men are also part of the story. These announcements at Pride-aligned events highlighted the diversity within the trans community. Giselle's journey spanned 12 years of transition before a public reveal, while Aidan's involved moving from non-binary to male pronouns. Neither path is more valid than the other. Both underscore that there's no single way to be transgender. Slowing down here, it's clear that the common thread is authenticity and the importance of supportive environments. By choosing Pride stages, both wrestlers ensured they would be met with applause rather than ridicule. These are real announcements, not part of any kayfabe angle, and they added to a growing chorus of voices changing the industry. Pride events hold symbolic power because they are designed to celebrate LGBTQ identities publicly and joyfully. In wrestling, a business built on spectacle, the energy of Pride meshes well with the drama of entrances and promos. When Giselle and Aiden made their announcements at Pride-aligned shows, they tapped into that energy to amplify their messages. Fans wearing rainbow colors and waving flags didn't need storylines to care. They cared because someone was owning their truth on a platform they loved. That blend of spectacle and sincerity creates a safe atmosphere where wrestlers can speak freely without worrying about being co-opted for a storyline. It also encourages promoters to support these moments, knowing that genuine representation resonates with audiences. Max the Impaler. 1 year later, the spotlight shifted again, this time to a wrestler who refuses to be boxed into traditional categories. At the NWA 75 Premium Live event in August 2023, Max the Impaler took on Kenzie Page for the Women's Television Championship. They entered the ring carrying a non-binary pride flag, a clear statement about who they are. When the match began, Max's brute strength and unique presence commanded attention. They pinned Kenzie and became the first non-binary champion in NWA history.
Pulling her by the hair.
The result may have been predetermined, but its impact was genuine. Fans waved pride flags and cheered, recognizing the moment as a milestone for representation. The story didn't end with a single title. Max went on to capture the Men's Television Championship as well, making them a rare competitor to hold both belts at the same time. Doing so challenged assumptions about who belongs in which division. Announcers and commentators adapted to using they-them pronouns during broadcasts, and fans adjusted right along with them. Some critics argued about fairness, but most embraced the idea that a wrestler's skill should determine their opportunities, not their gender. In a sport that still loves to label, Max's run blurred lines and broadened horizons. Their time with the NWA showed that progress isn't just symbolic, it can be tangible. Holding 2 titles meant more screen time, more storylines, and more chances to inspire viewers. In September 2025, Max announced they were leaving the NWA. It wasn't a bitter exit. It was a professional choice after an unprecedented run. Their departure closed a chapter on one of the most trailblazing reigns in recent memory and hinted they would carry their momentum elsewhere. Even though match outcomes are scripted, the representation and history being made are absolutely real. Max's rise and exit prove that non-binary wrestlers can be both stars and pioneers without being reduced to a novelty. The conversations sparked by Max's success extended beyond the NWA. Fans and commentators debated whether separate divisions by gender should exist at all. Some argued that skill and weight class should be the only separators, while others felt that women's divisions still offer necessary space for performers who have been marginalized. Max didn't solve those questions, but their run forced the dialogue. Their willingness to walk through both men's and women's gates in the NWA proved the doors are more flexible than many fans realized. That flexibility could shape booking decisions in the future, encouraging promotions to experiment with more inclusive approaches to championships and matchups. Amber Rose McCormick. The march of progress never truly stops, but it doesn't erase obstacles. In May 2024, Amber Rose McCormick, known on the independent circuit as Danger Kid, publicly came out as a trans woman. She explained she had previously identified as non-binary in 2021 and began hormone therapy in September 2023. By January 2024, she wrestled her last match and decided to step away from the ring to focus on her transition and personal life. Her announcement reminded everyone that stepping back can be an act of strength. Sometimes self-care and authenticity take priority over continuing to put your body on the line. Amber's choice to put her health first adds a new dimension to what bravery looks like in wrestling. Around the same time, Nyla Rose faced a different kind of challenge. The Oklahoma State Athletic Commission cited AEW for letting her wrestle at an event, questioning whether she should be allowed to compete. The incident had nothing to do with safety or match quality. It was rooted in outdated attitudes about gender. Backlash was swift, with fans and wrestlers rallying behind Nyla. This situation shows that while locker rooms may embrace inclusion, some institutions lag behind. It's another reminder that representation comes with obstacles that aren't always overcome by one person's success. Meanwhile, early pioneer Mariah Moreno quietly ended her 15-year career in 2022. She cited mental health and the toll of her transition as reasons for stepping away. Her retirement bookended a journey that began when almost no one else was out. It underscores that representation can be emotionally and physically draining. Even when fans call you a hero, you still have to take care of yourself. Her story highlights the human cost of paving the way for others and underscores the importance of support systems. These recent stories show that visibility is an ongoing process with victories and setbacks. It's tempting to think that once someone wins a title or comes out, the battle is over. In reality, every new announcement and every regulatory dispute becomes part of the larger narrative. The fact that athletes continue to share their stories and push forward despite bureaucracy and burnout speaks to the resilience of the community. Representation is normalizing. Trans and non-binary wrestlers are now present across many promotions and are being treated as competitors first. Take a moment to consider the fans watching today who will look back and see these events as standard history. For wrestlers themselves, the decision to go public isn't just about one day's statement. It's an ongoing commitment. Amber's choice to retire for now may evolve into a comeback story down the line, or she might find fulfillment outside the ring. Nyla's regulatory fight could become a catalyst for policy changes if enough fans and promotions apply pressure. Mariah's retirement highlights that mental health must remain part of the conversation when we celebrate trailblazers. Each individual narrative is complex and deserves more than a headline. The interplay between personal well-being and professional ambition is something every athlete grapples with, and trans and non-binary wrestlers often carry extra weight. Did we forget any wrestlers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and before you leave, don't forget to like this video so you don't miss the next ones.